So my name's Steve Williams. I'm president of Constructive Public Engagement and do a lot of work on helping people tell stories with data, really using visual tools to communicate their impact more effectively. So stakeholder engagement is really thinking about, if you're looking at government or academia, funders, who are the stakeholders you need to connect with? Well, I think stakeholder engagement is important for a number of reasons, but one of the ones that came up from today's workshop is the phrase someone used called translating science. And what she meant by that was that a lot of times when we do scientific communication, we're careful about not using jargon, not using terms and so on, but we forget that the discipline that we're within is a whole way of looking at the world that's different than other stakeholders. And I think if we don't take that into account, we can have the most amazing research, the most amazing story, and people just don't get it. It just sort of completely misses the point. I think maybe one thing that's important for people to remember is that while a lot of this may look complicated, it's really quite simple. It really just boils down to understanding who you're trying to talk to and what language they speak. And not just like English, French, German, Japanese, but are they scientists? Are they from government? Are they from industry? What do they actually think about? So that's one thing I think is important. The other thing I think is important is to leave enough time to do this kind of work. Because waiting until you've finished your research and you've done all your reports and you finally think, how are we going to communicate that? That's kind of too late. So just build into the process thinking about, what are we going to do with this research? Who needs to know this? What impact can this have on the world? Think about that early on and build that communication into your whole process. And it should be just as much a part of your process as thinking about your results and gathering data. Thinking about how you're going to communicate the results should be critical to that. So today we did a really sort of an overview, almost a tasting menu we called it, of some different techniques. So we talked a little bit about how stakeholder mapping works as a process. Then we spent a little bit of time talking about narrative framing, the power of story, the idea that it's not just about giving people numbers, it's around telling the story behind those numbers. And then we talked a little bit as well about visual communication and different visual techniques of presenting information. So that was really an overview of some of the different concepts. We're doing a much more detailed workshop. We're spending a full half day looking at stakeholder mapping in particular. So really looking at identifying who are your core stakeholders, how are they different, what information do they want to know, how are they connected, and how might you be able to frame your messaging in a way that really directly integrates and connects with those particular stakeholders.